Hey everyone, good to see you this evening. I figured I'd run a little bit of a show there of what this finished bathroom looks like rather than trying to time this. So hopefully you guys hear me all right. Thanks for joining me, Spinanza. Good to see you here. Thanks so much for being here. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Hey, on the way in here, if you could, give me a like on this video. Really helps out the algorithm. And hey, we got 30,000 subscribers today. So that we made a big mile marker here. Really has been a tremendous growth. And I've been just working my butt off trying to get as many videos out as possible because I know this is the season when you're thinking about renovating your bathroom. I know if you're a contractor, I'm getting tons of calls. This is the time of year to get started and thinking about doing it. And, this is what this channel is all about, trying to help you bathroom remodel and just find the most effective and efficient ways to go about doing things. So tonight's whole thing is part two of this bathroom, this tiled shower course I developed. And if you don't know me yet, my name is Steve White. I am from Pittsburgh area, and I've been a contractor in the Pittsburgh area for 22 years now. I started when I was 21, and really, last 14 years I've been specifically doing nothing but bathrooms. So I've really honed down a certain pattern of going about things, and that's what I'm trying to do here to share with you. And it's been great to see so many new contractors and everything coming on this channel as well. I'm learning from a lot of you. Some of your suggestions are really spot on, so I definitely appreciate that. So, I'm really happy to be hopefully kind of creating community here to help everyone out and get feedback because there's always multiple ways of going about things. So these live streams, my big thing is I'm hoping that you can communicate, leave some comments about things, questions on your own bathroom. All this feedback does nothing but help me and help this channel. The more common questions I get on things, the more that I can develop videos to answer those questions, and improving is all part of that. So thanks, babe, for checking in on there. Everything works there. So let's get into this thing. I don't know how long this is going to take tonight. Hopefully, I usually try to stay here for about an hour and a half, just going through things. But hey, leave your questions in the chat, and I'll try to stop and pause and maybe answer some of them. But we're going to get right into the course on part two. Basically, we already did the demo section, but just know that you can go to my YouTube channel and find all this stuff here. Oh, I didn't even have that up. Okay, so I got to get that back up here. I thought I had that pulled up. So bathroom, I got to check this out. Sorry. Bathroom remodeling, teachable.com is what I'm doing this whole basically is what I've developed the course on. So I love this site. It's really easy to build this out, and really here, I gotta get, do I need to log in? No, I don't think I need to log in. I might have to log in here. Sorry, guys. I thought I had this prepared. But as of right now, so if you go to bathroomremodeling.teachable.com, you can also go to my main website, bathroomremodelingteacher.com, and there I'm putting on blogs. I'm adding a checklist. I'm getting a lot of guides on there, and really it's all about plan, learn, build. So planning your bathroom is really important because, especially these days, trying to get materials in, you need to plan ahead on all of this stuff. It's not as easy as what it used to be in a lot of ways where in a couple of days you can get everything you need. So planning ahead is going to be really important. I have a lot of checklists on my website, and then obviously in this course, you'll find all that information as well. And in the learning part of it is actually taking the course and learning how to go about doing this stuff. And I'm still building out the build part of my platform, but basically the build part is to go into the materials, the tools, all the things that make it more efficient and better. So, I'm still kind of working on that, but, a lot of the tools that I'm using in my demonstrations here, I have on that build page. But, really what I'm hoping to do is just to try to get every type of waterproofing system, every type of, great product that I've been using over the years, and have that on there so that you can browse through there and have suggestions and some good advice on how to go about that. So anyways, right now I have 3 courses. I have the tub and shower course, which is really, I would say, is really goes online. All three of these can be purchased at the same time, and you're not going to be disappointed. Because the tub and shower, I really have it specified into a 7-day platform, basically going day by day to remodel a bathroom. And if you've already been watching me, you've already seen some of this stuff. But basically the organization of that course is really going to allow you to do things efficiently, and it goes through everything from the demo process to installing the tub to hanging the drywall to finishing the drywall to tiling. It just goes through the whole gamut, including the toilet installation, floor installation, and the faucet installation for a tub surround. But really the organization of it goes day by day and what you want to accomplish. And it's not much different than if you were doing a tiled walk-in shower either. If you're going to renovate the entire bathroom, there's still a certain order of operation to go about getting a tiled shower and that bathroom done. So both of them, the 7 days will give you kind of a baseline of how you want to go about each day. And then the custom tiled shower is specifically about building that custom tiled shower. So they really do go well together. And I think what I'm planning on doing is building out another course that's going to devour all of those other aspects, the drywall, the toilet installation, the vanity, and all of that. So then you can buy that a la carte of the tiled walk-in shower. But really my goal is to continue to add to this tiled walk-in shower course, adding a curbless option, potentially adding Schluter, adding different waterproofing systems, because I know that not all of you are going to want to go with the same system, and there's a lot of pros and cons to each that make a lot of sense to do. So for instance, if you're in a basement, you're probably going to go with a mud bed. There's probably no sense in going with a foam pre-slope pan. It's actually going to take you longer to get that that shower or level everything out to make it. But if you have a wood subfloor on a second floor, that's where these foam pans really save a lot of time. I really think in the basement you're better off to just go with a mud bed and slope it, and you can go curbless. And so that's one of the things I want to add to it. But Schluter is also a really great option. I know a lot of you guys can find that at all your big box stores and stuff. And then I have the glass enclosure. So if you're doing a custom glass enclosure, you know how expensive. You might probably gotten some quotes, $3,000-$4,000 to install a glass enclosure. Maybe not $4,000. You're probably $2,000 to $3,000 on a typical shower, and you can save a lot of money by just learning how to measure, order, and install your own glass. I assure you that any one of these courses are going to save you way more than that, just by knowing. I mean, even if you got the smallest bit of efficiency out of this, it'll save you that much money. I mean, I'm leaving it at a low price because I want to get as many people involved as possible, and the more feedback, the better I can make this. And really, at the end of the day, I see so many YouTubers out there selling courses for $300, $400, $500, $600. Now, a lot of that's to make money, but hey, I'm hoping that some people are going to come into this course and start a career out of it, because we are in need of tradesmen for sure. So the tiled course, that's what we're going to focus on tonight. Basically, the whole outline of this shower goes from the demo process of it, which we already went in part 1, the framing, the moving the shower drain. That's what we're going to get into tonight. I'm not sure if we're going to get into the shower faucet tonight, because that's a lengthy video. Might not have the time for it, depending on the questions and stuff. And then later on, probably part 3, 4, 5 of this series, we're going to get into the waterproofing, tiling. I always say that tiling should be the fun part of the project. And as a certified tile installer, I'm going to give you a lot of advice on how to go about this, and hopefully make it easier on you, and so that it's not a frustrating part of the job. I did a poll the other day on YouTube asking what was one of the biggest parts of a bathroom remodel that gave you the most trepidation, or what you weren't looking forward to. And as you would probably think, plumbing was one of them, but tiling actually went above all others. So I think I had 1,000 people that chimed in on there, and tiling was the big part that no one was looking forward to. So I feel bad about that. I'm hoping that some of my advice in this course will make that easier and more fun for you. But I can understand, if you're not used to using thin set, if you're not used to cutting with these tile saws, it's messy. It really is messy. And I'm not the cleanest person. I'm definitely trying to improve in that area. for sure, because I need to take my time a little bit more when I'm trying to educate and be a little bit cleaner with what I do. But at the end of the day, it's not really, as long as you're getting things done and everything at the end product looks good, that's all that really matters. So some of you might be able to relate to some of the messiness that I have in here, but keep in mind, a lot of this stuff was last summer that I was really working my butt off to get as much content as possible. And so far I've been pleased with what we've been able to create. I go in this shower, it's just really simple, glass shelving, nothing, no niches. I do have a niche in this course that you can review on some of the processes of it, but I wanted to keep this shower kind of simple. I feel like this is kind of somewhat, I'm beginner level to a certain extent, but a smaller shower that's 3x4 like this, sometimes a recessed niche just isn't worth all the effort. Some of these glass shelves, you can have just as much storage within that area, especially if you got a shower door system that actually can have more shelving as well. So we could have 3 on the back here and then another like 3 on the glass enclosure. You can get a glass enclosure that has the glass involved with it. So getting into the curriculum, we already did the demo. We're going to get into the plumbing and framing. I bet if I have to sign in, I don't know if, yeah, I do. I got to go to my main course here and sign in. I'm not sure why I did not do that. Let me go to Teachable. Sorry guys, I should have had this all prepared. I'll log in. And then view school. And then as a student. Okay, so go into my tiled couch, walk-in shower. All right, so get down to my curriculum here. And what I really loved about Teachable is the way, I was able to outline everything. So you'll have like a little moving bar on here that goes through all the steps that are going through here. So it makes it nice and easy to follow through. And if you've went through any portion of it, it'll kind of give you a little indicator that you've gone through it. So first off, let's just give you a little bit of motivation here if you haven't been on here watching. But this is a quote that I gave this client that I did this bathroom for last summer, so June 6th, 2021. So you better add on another 10% for inflation these days. But basically, this is just a 4x8 bathroom, pretty standard size. I think it's actually 4x7.5. 7'6". I believe that's what it was. I really should know that, but it was somewhere between 4'8" and 7'6" and 8 foot long. So we were able to get a nice 36-inch deep shower in here. We made sure that we had our toilet, away from the shower. You want to be at least a minimum of 15 inches there, and then we had a freestanding vanity in here. But just to give you a little bit of motivation of what this would cost, at least here in Pittsburgh for as a contractor pricing, is that I like to outline things day by on each portion so that everybody knows exactly what I'm doing on each section of the job. But really, this is, now I did quote Schluter and I went with Weedy, but I really, at the end of the day, I kind of priced the same amount for either one of those systems. Even though Weedy costs a little bit more, it does take a little bit more time to do Schluter. So, for me, the labor is faster with Weedy. So I don't really differentiate the price cost too much when I do clients. I can do either one and it's going to be the same price. Weedy, I can usually put in and install and basically have a waterproof in about 4 hours and ready for tile. And sometimes I even tile the base that day. Schluter sometimes would take about another hour or so. So anyways, we did a faucet with a handheld, put in a new vent fan. Always recommend a new vent fan in a bathroom. And then obviously new drywall. And again, if you've been on this channel, you hear me constantly say, take everything down to the studs. If you're going to spend thousands of dollars on your bathroom, you want to see your existing plumbing, you want to see your electrical, and at the end of the day, finishing some pieces of drywall is not that much effort, and you might be actually spending more time fixing all the holes from the accessories and everything else. It just makes everything much more difficult. I typically give him my quote, kind of an idea of what the shower might look like. Now she went with a more like a subway tile looking type of bathroom, but really I'm just really specifying what kind it is, porcelain or ceramic, because if you do stone, you're definitely going to want to charge more because every one of those cuts are made with a wet saw. I included a bench. She didn't want a bench. Honestly, there wasn't really that much room in the bathroom. So anyways, at the end of the day, this bathroom retail would be between 12 and 15,000 pretty much all day long. I would say that's a pretty fair price these days, especially with items getting more expensive. And really, I had planned for 8 days to complete this. This does take a little bit longer than a tub shower. The tub usually there's less towel work involved, especially if you're not. Now, you could probably make it comparable if you did a shower base that wasn't tiled, because that would save you, a good half a day right there. So you could probably get into the 7 days if you did a shower base. But really, the towel work in a walk-in shower is definitely going to normally take you a little bit longer. And then, the underlayments, the actual waterproofing system takes time as well. So typically on a bathroom this size, I do account for 2 weeks. Maybe that's a common joke for contractors. It takes 2 weeks to get it done. But that's what I usually schedule out for my job for a smaller bathroom like this. And really, it should really only take me about 8 days. Sometimes the glass enclosure doesn't come in right away, and I'm coming back way later after that 2 week period. But at least I kind of give an expectation to the client that they're going to be able to use their shower in a 2 week period. So really, like I said, about 8 days. That's what this one did. Actually, it took us 8. Because I'm filming during this too. So, I could definitely be a lot faster if I wasn't doing all the filming and the educating part of it. So it did actually take us 9 days, and I did come back to do that glass enclosure. So, Barney, good to see you here. Thanks so much. Good. Yeah. I mean, bathroom remodeling, there's, one of the best things about being a bathroom remodeling contractor, at least here in the United States, and I've been in trouble by other people saying across the world, like, hey, not everyone has 3 bathrooms in their home. But, at least in America, Canada, I would say most people do have at least 2 bathrooms. As a bathroom contractor, that's great because you do one bathroom and you might get a call to do the other one at some point. You can't say that about kitchens. Can't say that about roofing. Like once the projects are done, your services are no longer needed. Whereas bathrooms, there's usually another bathroom. So that's really, I think it's a great way to start out with a business. And I work alone. So I think a lot of you guys, or women for that matter, can do this by yourself with really little, I shouldn't say little overhead. It definitely costs money. You need to have insurance. You need to have all the equipment. Obviously gets really overwhelmingly expensive depending on how efficient you need to be. Having all the equipment, I could see starting out, you can easily spend with a truck. I guess you shouldn't even include the truck, but just tools and equipment alone, I could see you spending almost 10 grand, to be efficient. And then, obviously you need the truck and the trailer and all that other stuff. So it can get it could be quite an investment for sure. But compared to, I don't know, I guess college, that, a lot of these people are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an education and then are having a hard time getting a job. You could be well under 100 grand and then be able to have a 6-figure job doing bathroom remodeling. I don't see that being a problem at all. Now it's going to take you time to be efficient and get as quick as this, but the other thing about bathroom remodeling is the pictures are always what sells. So it's really nice and easy. So let's get into this. The other thing about my course, and I have the link in this description of this video, but I want to make sure you download or take a look at my guide for curved showers, because I go into, and we went over this the last time, so if you wanted to review the live stream, you can go ahead and do so. But this really goes into detail about some of the specs that you want to keep within your bathroom remodel. But really, what I really want you to pay attention to is the different pros and cons of different systems when you're evaluating going about things. I always get questions about, like, what's wrong with just doing a rubber liner with a mud bed? Well, I have a lot of the pros and cons in here that explain exactly that. And then, it really comes down to efficiency. So I really put a lot of time into this guide, And I think it'd be really well worth your time to check it out. It doesn't cost, you don't have to buy the course to get this guide. It's in the description below. But really, I have a time analysis that kind of gives you, at least in my perspective, of the time that you're saving, um, or what you're accruing by doing different systems. And really, time is money, and that's where all these preformed systems like the Weedy and Schluter, they're making up for that. I mean, you're able to speed up your time, so they're charging a bit of money to have that product. So, you obviously, if you're doing this at your own home at your own pace, a mud bed and cement board and liquid waterproofing probably would be your cheapest bet. So I highly recommend that. I go into the faucets. We're not going to get into the faucets tonight because I don't think I'm going to even get to that portion because I talk too much. But yeah, let's get into this. Let me see if I have any comments here. Oh yeah, Davis, I don't really have a script. Yeah, please ask your questions. I'll pause when it's appropriate. I'm trying to make this flow to a certain extent, and I've had trouble in the past doing that. But yeah, no, my real goal is to have a little bit of engagement here. So yeah, ask your questions. I mean, hopefully on topic. I mean, I'm doing tiled walk-in showers, and at the end, if you have a question about anything else outside of tiled walk-in showers, we can get through that as well. So, but yeah, my hope is to do 2 live streams a week, and I'm really focusing on this course right now because I like the structure of the way this goes. So yeah, please by all means go ahead and ask. All right, so here we go. Let's just get into this plumbing move, and so this is I guess I should give you full disclosure. I'm not a licensed plumber. And when you're watching anything on my channel or any YouTuber for that matter, know that all these people, anything that you find on there, you have to be paying attention to your own local municipality and their rules and what kind of codes that they've enforced in your area. If you need a licensed plumber, you got to use a licensed plumber. But I think I could be wrong. Maybe somebody can correct me on that. But I think majority of the time, if you're a homeowner, you can do most of your own plumbing. Now, inspections and all that stuff, that's all up to you and your own local jurisdiction, I should say. And so, this is just, purely, I don't want to say entertainment purposes, but this is something that I'm just, what I've been doing for, the last 14 years and what's worked for me. But there are a lot of areas within this plumbing moving that and I'll even explain in here what I'm talking about. But there's a lot of improvements I can make on the way I even did this shower, but this is really more or less just a demonstration of what I've done. So this is not financial advice. This is not overall plumbing advice for your jurisdiction. So don't get yourself in trouble with your local municipalities on any of this stuff. So with that, let's get into this.
Okay, so originally I wanted to move this whole vent stack back further, but it's going to be a lot of complication for an additional 3 inches. And really, my existing shower was 32 before, which is really narrow. And now I'm getting an extra 10 inches out of it because it'll be about 42 inches. I'm just going to have my framing meet up right with the edge of this. 36, so that valve is going to be right here. But this T, the way it is with this old copper, basically, if I wanted to actually move this, I would have to get a couple 45-degree elbows, but the problem with that is that it's still above floor to where it's moving over. So I'm still going to be stuck with that 42 inches. The way I'd have to address this is actually move this T back, so cutting here and then furrow-coing and moving it over. For 3 inches, which is all about I can get, I mean I got, 4 inches. So I could probably get like a 3.5 inches of more space to move this over, but the troublesome of changing all of that for 3 inches just isn't worth it to me or the client. So we're just gonna go framing straight up to this. The other thing I want to pay attention to is where my shower valve is going to be. I'm going to be about 18 inches. So this vent's going to be pretty dang close to where my shower valve has to be. But yeah, so we're going to adapt the PEX off of the copper and bring it up for the valves.
So let me know whether this is echoing a little bit. I need to figure out the volume on a live stream. let me know if there's any issue with the volume at all, or if this is kind of, there's some kind of big echo on here. But anyways, yeah, I mean, this is when I uncovered that bump out on that bathroom. Basically, there was a little bump out for that. If you saw my previous video, we demoed that. So that's what was in there. And then, basically I did not want to move that vent stack because of all the extra complications to do so. So really, I think if you could get outside of a 36-inch wide shower, then that's pretty decent. The existing shower that was there before was 32 inches wide, and so that becomes very, very narrow. And not, if you're 6 foot tall like me or bigger, it's harder. It's, you lean over and you're hitting your head off the wall. So we were able to expand this out 40 inches, which worked out great. But I have some, we're going to get through the demo here and show you what we had to do to move the shower drain.
All right, so 42 is going to be 21, so we got to change the trap. Boy, that's a weird finagle.
Okay, so every shower drain assembly is usually pretty different, especially in the older days, 30 years ago. They didn't really have the accurate plans they do now with replicating the same system over and over again. So you're always kind of uncovering a different system in these older homes. So what I just did was just cut off that 2-inch trap, and I'm going to be using a Fernco to adapt to PVC drain. Now, when you use drains that you can't have access to, you always want to use a glued-in type P-trap. And remember, when you're converting anything from to a shower, it always has to be 2-inch piping all the way through the waistline. And if you can see here, there's actually a vent that comes off the back end of my shower drain, and it's considered a crown vent. So the shower is vented, this 1.5-inch line that goes up to the right. So be sure that when you're looking at your shower drains that they are vented, because that's really important for the flow of water. So what I'm going to be using is PVC glue, primer, and cement made by Odie. Link is in the description for that. But you really just want to be priming the fittings and the actual pipe. Prime it first, and then you can just immediately start gluing them together. So one quick tip about this is that you definitely want to cover both the fitting and the pipe, and then when you put it in, I always like to do like a quarter turn and you just hold it for a few seconds, about 10 seconds, because if not, it wants to push the fitting out. So just be sure that when you put the fitting together that you actually press it together. And here I'm just priming my trap arm because it's going to be hard to efficiently prime that when it's in place. So we just put the Fernco onto the existing 2-inch copper line, and you want to use a level once you get this in place to make sure that that trap stays level. This will make sure that your riser pipe is plumb as well. So here I'm just using a level, and I'm just addressing that, making sure that that stays level, and then your P-trap, your actual trap arm, will be plumb because of that situation. I like to use a driver bit on my impact drill to tighten that Fernco, and it just ensures that you don't want to over tighten it, but it does make a nice snug fit. So then prime your fittings again, and then you can immediately glue with the PVC glue. Now this is a little tricky. You only have so much time before this sets up, and then you can't move it anymore. So when you do this, you want to be installing it and then immediately have your tape measure there to make sure that you sit that trap arm in the correct locations. And if you haven't done this before, it might not be a bad idea to buy 2 traps just in case you screw the first one up, because running out to the stores is really painful when you're in the middle of this project. I always have a couple of traps on hand just in case I didn't get to it quickly enough and things set up and I can't move it. But you normally have about 10 seconds to be able to move that into place. So just double check your measurements. And in this instance, we're going to be doing a weedy shower system that's going to go over top, which is a waterproof shower pan system. So I will be gluing the riser pipe in, but I do recommend that if you're going to be doing a Schluter shower, that you wait. Just keep the riser pipe in there. Yeah, that's definitely an important detail I want to highlight here. If you're doing a Schluter system, I would definitely leave that riser pipe out, because it's going to be easier to measure and install that drain more accurately, rather than having to use an inside pipe cutter after you have everything in to get it down to the right depth. So if you're having a plumber obviously do this section, which I would highly recommend if you're feeling, if you feel like you need to do something like this. But I also wanted to highlight on here, and I'm going to get into this a little bit further below here as well, but this Fernco, I mean, now I've installed many showers and that has been completely sufficient, but I've obviously gotten a lot of feedback from other plumbers on other platforms, and I agree. This should be a no hub fitting, basically with the metal banding. Here, I'll show you what that should look like. That would be the better fitting for this scenario. So this is a no hub cup link. Obviously has the metal banding on here, double straps on here, double worm clamp straps. So this is going to be a much stronger fitting, and I have the link down below. So just know that when you're looking at this. But and I know a lot of your big box stores and stuff always have the Ferncos on at hand, and at the end of the day, this was somewhat accessible, not easily accessible, but this was done. There's a basement below that you can actually do something with this. The other thing that I could have done better in this situation was to try to just totally connect onto the actual copper instead of the brass. But again, I mean, this was totally sufficient, totally worked. Just and I've done that many times. But when you can, I would definitely highly recommend tightening or using a no hub fitting on your actual copper, not the actual fitting that's going over top of it. So those are definitely some things that could have been better. But really, I mean, where my center this needed to be, all of this would have had to been rearranged and redone. So you have to take that into account on what you're doing as well. So yeah, let's just keep moving forward here. But I just wanted to highlight that the Weedy system, it's easy to cut that pipe flush with the subfloor. The Schluter system does require you to cut down below the subfloor. So you'd be better off to leave that riser pipe out altogether if you're doing a Schluter system. But don't glue it after you get the pan in. It makes it a little bit easier. But for the Weedy system, I like to glue that riser pipe in.
Okay, so we're going to be installing one of these to hold this up because this moves all over the place. So we just put this on the bottom of the trap. It's got nails that come with it. And I want to pull it over a little bit because we're a little bit off. We've got 20 inches. So they'll be able to get some movement out of this. So we'll just kind of pull this over a little bit. Okay, so starts it up. We got 20 and a half. That's probably going to be fine by 18. So with the Fernco, you are going to get a little bit of movement out of it, but once I connect it to the actual pan, I'll be okay. But just this scenario, I'm a ½ inch off from my ideal location, but that's going to be close enough for what I'm doing here.
Okay, so yeah, so one of the most important parts that, when you're doing an existing shower is to make sure that it's vented. So this is considered a crown vent, like I was stating in the video here. So you just really want to make sure where that is, and it really has to be, from what I understand and from what I've learned over the years, is that you want to be within 6 feet. So a lot of times you don't always have the crown vent just sitting here right at plain vision. Sometimes it's much further down. So we'll get into the venting thing here in a second as well, because I wanted to highlight a couple of different ways that if you didn't have a vent, or if you were converting a tub to a shower, and what you would need to do to make sure that that vent is done properly. Because a lot of times in a renovation situation, you don't have a lot of depth to be able to add a proper crown vent. Most of the time, most homes that I've been in, older homes, are either, I mean, some of them are 2x8s, which are terrible. That's really not enough depth at all, or 2x10s. And so there's not a lot of height there to be able to get a crown vent to be straight up and down. So that in this instance, see how that is straight up and down. That's a great vent right there. That's a great way to have this whole system vented. But this is a pretty unique bathroom, and obviously this is in the basement where the 3-inch line's down below the joists. So if you're on a second floor somewhere, you're not going to have these same type of deal. But here, then we just go through this venting, and then we can go down into further into my explanation of things and some different common ways to go about venting.
Okay, I wanted to go over the plumbing that was redesigned here for this shower, and a couple pointers that I want to give you. Now, every bathroom remodel is going to be a different scenario, especially in these older homes. The newer homes now, they really do kind of have things engineered down to where most things are pretty much the same. But back when they were building these things, it was just kind of whoever was the tradesman was the one who coming up with the design. So it's going to be, almost every bathroom I do, it's never really the same. So anyways, I just wanted to show you what was redesigned. The number one thing to remember, though, is that you want to have vents on your shower, and you want to have a 2-inch drain for your shower. So if you're converting to a tub, you need to expect that you're going to have to run a new waste line from your shower location to all the way to the main waste stack. You really can't reduce it down in that period, in any fashion. Now that can be done, but it's not going to meet code, and it's not going to. You could potentially have problems in the future. So the first thing we did was just get rid of our existing toilet supply, our 3-inch stack that had the toilet. And the main reason that we did that is because we ended up adapting to the copper with a banded fitting to 3-inch. And what it allowed us to do was get a long sweep T. This is a 3-inch fitting with a long sweep 2-inch T. Anytime that you have a fitting on its side, you want it to be a long sweep. So either something similar to this, or having two 45-degree angles to make that long sweep. This is just an area that can be possibly clogged easily if you had just a standard 90-degree bend. So always get a fitting that either has a 45 on it or has a long sweep like this. The second thing to note here is how we have our vent. So this is considered a crown vent. Basically, the piping is either standing straight up or at a 45-degree angle, but always allowing air into the drain. You don't want to be going sideways, because this area can fill up with water and then you won't have any air into the drain. So it either has to be pitched at a 45 straight up, or the best way to go about it is having it straight up and down where the vent goes up and this comes out to your shower. Now, this configuration most likely does not work in most situations because of the depth and where the plumbing is. You would probably most likely need something directly underneath your wall in order for something like this to work. So unfortunately, the ultimate way of having your T straight up and this coming out to your shower port would be ideal, but most of the time there's not enough room to do this. So that's where you go into the 45-degree. I always like to just buy these 1.5 inches, because you can reduce your vent down to 1.5 inches, and that gives you a little bit more room between underneath the joist. So what I did was used one of these T's with the 1.5 inches coming off. I did a 22.5-degree bend, street bend, that went into the vent, and then brought it up and attached into my existing vent over here. Now this vent just needs to be 6 inches above the flood line. Obviously we're about a foot or so. The flood line would be the shower pan area. So we were able to tie into that existing vent. We tied into that again with a banded fitting. You want to use these banded fittings when you go around copper. It's called a mission cup link or a no hub cup link, but you want to make sure you get the ones that are for copper to PVC. So they make a bunch of different types. They make them for cast iron, they make them for brass, make them for a whole bunch of different types of fittings, but just make sure you have the copper because the copper is a thinner diameter than the plastic. So then we just brought our solvent weld trap over. Solvent weld meaning that it's just a glued in trap. We do not have access below, so we wanted to make sure that this was all glued. Now I am leaving this riser pipe loose until I get my shower pan in. Then I'll measure and install this later. I find it to be easier for a Schluter drain to measure and install this riser pipe afterwards. But if you had a traditional drain, like a traditional shower pan, or you're using a weedy system or some other system, you might want to glue that in and then cut it after you get the subfloor in.
Okay, so I hope that was some valuable information for you on how to go about that. So yeah, a lot of times that is the configuration that you're needing to do, for a vent that's not existing, or a tub shower can change. But really, just make sure that that vent is within 6 feet of the drain. And I brought up a little bit of diagrams. It's not in my course necessarily, but it was something that I wanted to highlight that I found, basically on a bunch of different tutorials. But really the reason that you want to be, well, this is 8 feet for a sink, but a 2-inch drain for the shower. I've always been told it was 6 feet, so maybe a plumber can correct me on that. But basically it all revolves around the trap weir of where the water level is in the trap, and the distance of where it would be, basically down flow. So if you went past, well, in this case, or stating 8 feet, then you would no longer have the ability for air to go into that shower. Now, I don't know what situation you would need to be 8 feet away in a bathroom. I guess if you had a really large bathroom, you might have something extended out that way. Most of the time, that's not really an issue. Most of the time, your bathrooms aren't even that big to begin with. So I think most situations, you're going to have a vent stack way closer than 6 or 8 feet. But I thought this was another good diagram of this scenario, of how this trap weir works. So, and really it just comes down to the siphoning of the water if your trap or if your vent is below that trap weir. It's basically kind of like you stick a hose in a pool and that water can be siphoned out. That's kind of like if it doesn't have any air, that's what it wants to do. So if you ever hear any gurgling in your sink or tub or shower for that matter, it might be because it doesn't have a very good vent and it's trying to suck air through it. And the danger of that, obviously, is if you don't have this trap, sewer gases can be escaping into your home. So that's the whole reason for the trap in the first place. So, but yeah, that's, if you're within 6 feet, you're usually in good shape. But I really want to highlight a bunch of different things in here that when you see existing plumbing in your home, especially the older homes, that's why I always really highlight you need to remove your subflooring, or you need to remove at least all your wall material so that you can see what you're really getting into before you spend thousands of dollars of putting it over top of some of this plumbing. So if you're over 50 years old, I would definitely recommend inspecting it. If you're working on a home that's maybe 20 years old, most likely it has PVC or ABS piping in it, and you're not dealing with old cast iron or galvanized. But I'll show you some of the ones that I've encountered that, these are homes in Pittsburgh that are about 100 years old, and a lot of the old showers used to just have all galvanized, or brass for that matter. A lot of them had brass in the homes as well, and those were really pretty nice homes that they had them in. But anything with a metal threading like that, I just don't think it's worth ever attaching to. You kind of want to replace it all the way to the main stack. So in this bathroom, this had an old lead line that had, that they used to use lead liners for showers. So this was like an old walk-in tiled shower with a big mud bed underneath of it. But anything that you see like this, I mean, come on, you got to remove it. It's just definitely not worth attaching to. So, and you can see how some of this galvanized piping, it just corrodes in there. So, especially if you're getting an old house, I've used to buy a lot of houses to flip in Pittsburgh here. And when homes, I was more concerned about homes that were not used than ones that were, used on a regular basis. Because if you let a home sit that have galvanized piping like this for a couple of years and no one, it's like abandoned in some way, you might as well just replace all the plumbing, because that's what it's going to look like. It's going to be completely corroded. You might be able to snake that, but you definitely don't want to be attaching anything new to something like that. You want to get rid of that. So in this scenario, we basically attached to the end over here with a new Fernco to the main stack. But you want to use those 4-inch mission couplings. I always have the links in my course here for it. This is one of the places I like to go to is Supply House. So at least here in America, that's where I order a lot of my plumbing parts. It's really, they do have all the specialty fittings and stuff, which is great. So, but yeah, use those banded type of mission couplings. I'm definitely going to be implementing that more as I move forward, because it is definitely a better connection. So this was another scenario of a bathroom. This was actually not even that old of a home, probably 30 years old, and just some really nasty looking plumbing configurations with no vent whatsoever. It was actually attached way back here, which would actually technically be a wet vent, because when you flush the toilet, where it can vent is, like basically it was attached after the vent. So I don't know how they ever got away with doing this, but this is something that, they wanted a shower in. And so I converted everything over the 2-inch and got a new vent stack that went up. But yeah, pay attention to those vents. It really is important for the function of the bathroom. Here's one for a tub that I installed. But this is a crown vent, so this was kind of nice. A lot of times you can get this to go up into the plumbing wall that is where your shower faucet is. This is another great way to get a vent in the bathroom. And remember, even on a shower, you can usually convert down to 1.5 inches. You don't have to go with the full 2-inch pipe all the way through. The biggest rule here is that you want to be, since this is a crown vent, you want to just be double the diameter of the pipe that you're using. So in this scenario, it would be this would have to be 3 inches away from where that trap was, which would probably, would rarely be an issue to be able to do that. And then this was awfully copper drains. This is what's really popular in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I think really it was more like late 80s or 80s that you were really starting to get a lot. Well, 70s we were getting some PVC and stuff as well, ABS. So, and then in my course, I always just like to give some reminders. I don't expect you to go back and watch a 10-minute video again. So I always have the highlighted portions of it. So, obviously dry fitting your trap, making sure it's centered to where it's located before you go ahead and start gluing it into place. Making sure that you have that vent of something somewhere in the line, because you can't always give that as a given. Have it within 6 feet, and that's the rule I've always been given. But again, pay attention to your local building code on what they want. But you really do want it to be 2-inch. That's mostly all your shower trays are going to connect to that. So you really want to try to make everything 2-inch if you can. But this would be the ultimate way to go about venting, because then you know that there's no way that anything could be above or below that trap rear, having a vertical vent like that. But probably not practical unless you're on a first floor bathroom where you're able to go down below the level of your joist, because most of the time there isn't any room to be able to make this kind of configuration work within a joist bay. But hey, a lot of new homes now do have engineered joists, which can be 16 inches in depth, so you might have the ability to do that as well. I would say this is probably another common way, which I was showing you up there, but basically having a crown wheel going straight up. Obviously this is going to require a wall to be within some, so whether it's the plumbing wall, whether it's a partition wall that you have some sort, But this would be another great way to go about it. But this is probably the most common way that is going to have to be added if you have to add a vent, and that's just having this 2 inch to inch and a half fitting kind of pitched at a 45-degree angle, so that this vent is always above the trap weir and allowing air to always come into the vent. So this is probably your most common way to be able to have this work within the depth of a joist bay. And then I just have the fittings here that you can review and click on and find. So, but again, looking at this from this angle, you can see how this is pitched up and allowing air to always be into this vent. So, yeah, Barney, as far as centering your drain with a mud bed, I mean, yeah, it really is just a matter of that. I mean, mud bed, you definitely have a lot more flexibility because you can kind of make it what you want. But obviously, yeah, if you have tile design, you're really wanting to pay attention to how, your tile layout's going to be, because yeah, if you're a couple inches off of your center mark, that could make it pretty tough to make your tile look good. So yeah, that's always a consideration. But yeah, it's primarily just measuring, and it can be tough, man. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I really didn't have much room with where this shower was to be, like you have your trap right here. Like all of this would have to be redone if I wanted to, if I had to be over 3 more inches. So, but these are things that you're never really going to know until you tear up the subfloor and see what you have working with for you on this. So, luckily, it's just the way that I was able to get a 40-inch shower, and it just happened to work out well. Now, when you're doing a weedy system, like I'm highlighting in this tile shower course, you have to be pretty accurate on your centers, especially if you want to use that full pan that's 36 inches. Like it has to be on 18 inches. You really don't have any flexibility with it. Now, if it's under that, you can cut the pan down. It's going to cost you a little bit more time to be able to cut the pan down. But if you're like 18 and a half, it's just not going to work. You're going to have to fur out that back wall to make that, because that board needs to go into the rabbet joint of the weedy pan. And then obviously if you had a regular shower tray of some sort that was acrylic or something, that has to be pretty spot on as well. So you really don't have much flexibility a lot of times. But yeah, Barney, if you're doing a mud bed, man, you definitely have a lot more flexibility when it comes to pitching that shower tray to it. So, but yeah, as far as weedy goes, I bought a 3x4 pan for this system, so I wanted to use the full 36 inch. So I had to make sure that was 18 inches exactly on my piping. And then as far as this way, that you can cut down the pan to make that work. Not a big deal. That's one reason I do like about Weedy, Schluter. A lot of these, they're easy to cut down and be able to fit into it. And really, if you're really uncertain about your drain location, let me just say it. If you're really uncertain about your drain location, I would probably go with a Schluter system. That's one of my big reasons I would go with them. Because they are more flexible if you're needing that pre-slope pan. I mean, it really does speed things up. But yeah, if you don't know where your drain location is exactly, or whether you're going to be capable, Schluter is the more flexible system with it, but Weedy is going to get the entire job done faster in a lot of ways. But you do pay a price for it. Weedy is not a cheap system. It definitely costs more than Schluter. But here I'm just highlighting some of the main points. Obviously PVC glue for PVC piping, ABS glue for ABS, prime and glue the fittings. You can pretty much prime them and immediately glue them, no problem. You just want to make sure that and again, using these no hub fittings are the better way to go. And having those two worm clamps on either side of the pipe, I think would definitely make this a tighter connection point for sure. But just making sure, that when you put your trap bar in, get a little level on here, make sure that stays level, because that's going to be important for the connection to the pan. If your riser pipe is tilted one way or the other, it's going to make it hard to connect to your drain assembly. So using a level on that trap arm really makes a big difference in making sure that everything stays up in line here. So yeah, again, I'm always highlighting this, but the Weedy shower, go ahead and glue it in. The Schluter shower, leave that riser pipe out. Obviously, supporting is important, especially with a fern coat like this. So getting one of these J hooks really is worthwhile installing. So, and if you're into the course, you can always ask me a question here. You obviously can ask me here on YouTube as well. I'll try to get to you. But at some point, as things progress, most of my time is going to be focused on the course. So people that buy into that are going to get my most attention to it. So so hopefully that gave you a little bit of an overview of moving a shower drain and the importance of having a vent on some of that as well. So moving on to the subflooring, let's go ahead and get into this as well. So now that you have that all maneuvered, now you can go ahead and put your subflooring in. This should be fairly straightforward. You just need to pay attention to the size of hole that you need to make for your system that you're installing, and we'll get into that as well here.
Okay, so we want to cut a 5.5 inch hole. So we got like 20 5/8. Okay, so the plywood area. Should be sinking this underneath this wall a little bit, so 19 inches.
And there's really nothing wrong with using OSB 3/4 inch plywood for under a lot of these
So for
systems.
the weedy drain, you need to do a 5.5 inch hole.
So, and this is a point too that you want to make sure that everything's level, because that's going to be important for a weedy pan or a foam pan. Definitely one of the things that I've been following along on my channel.
All right, so that's not bad. We'll
That I've had some issues
get some better supports on
recently
here
with
because
the
I don't like
shower.
the way it was.
Had an unlevel floor for these foam
sitting
pans.
on
You really
there.
want to make sure that drain
So just go
level.
straight 48.5.
Hey, Modern, good to see you here.
Make sure it stays level. Okay, so we want to glue this plywood down.
Always glue your plywood.
Okay, so one other thing you want to pay attention to is that you have 16 inches on center on your framing, the deflection in between the joist. So for most shower systems, there's going to have to be 16 inches on center, and that will eliminate any deflection in between the joists. So let's just also just mark our bottom stud here of where these joists are so that we don't miss them. So about every 8 inches, I'm using 8 penny nails. Make sure that this subfloor is level either way, so we're good. That's good.
So yeah, obviously do the leveling before you go nailing it down. But I did, I knew that was level. I had already checked it prior to that. But making sure that these pans are level. And like I said, if you've been following along on my channel, I've recently had an issue. I installed a KBRS towel basin, which basically is kind of like an acrylic pan, but it's already pre-made with sides on it and everything. So it's 100% waterproof. You just set it into place on the top of an OD drain. And so this is 5 years ago I installed this thing, and my client called me 3 months ago or so saying that there was water pooling on the one section of the shower and that it wasn't draining properly. So I was totally confused of how that could possibly be. I mean, heck, it was 5 years ago I installed the thing. And KBRS actually has, a fairly steep pitch. I'd have to say it's steeper than 1/4 inch per foot on most circumstances, because compared to the Weedy system or the Schluter system, they definitely, when they make those towel basins, they're really kind of making it drastically go downhill. So anyways, what I've pretty much kind of determined is that my subfloor was really unlevel. It was about a 1/2 inch out of level minimum. And I don't know if the house is still moving in that direction. I really don't know. But I mean, it kind of tells me that it might be. But regardless, the drain had kind of moved up slightly. So it was above the tile layer, which I definitely didn't install the tile that way. It was definitely recessed below at one point. And anyways, the drain was just so unlevel that it just caused a problem with the tile, with the drainage of the shower pan. So basically, you'll see this eventually, but I basically had to take it, kind of pull the drain apart. I ended up going with a Schluter type of drain, which was Flow FX, which I think is, I see a lot of the guys using this now, and it seems like it is a nice system. I haven't tiled over it yet, so I want to see how it works with the drain assembly and stuff. But all I'm saying is that any of these foam bases, you have to make sure that that the subfloor is level. Make sure so that your drain connection is nice and even, is sitting level. It's not putting any pressure on the drain. Now, what I had over there, since that was about a 1/2 inch out, that definitely was something I should have addressed a long time ago. So whether you're using floor leveler, whether you're tearing up the plywood and shimming it up, whatever it takes, you want to make sure that your drain is level, so you're not putting any stress on the piping, you're not putting any stress on the drain assembly. So, keep that in mind, and I've definitely learned it the hard way. This has taken me hours and hours and hours to fix this issue, and if I would have just paid attention to that, it would have been a better way to go. So, so getting down here below here, I just wanted to give some indication of hole sizing. So when, now I put this in the subflooring area, I hope you review this if you were you're in this course, to review a lot of the whole section. So going through, before you even get started, go through the whole plumbing and framing section so that you can get a good idea of what you're doing before you get started. That's what this is all about, is you planning ahead. But I kind of go over some references of basically how you want to the hole sizing on framing for the most part. So right here, basically, in a 2x8, the max hole that you should be able to drill anywhere in a joist is 2 3/8. So a lot of times you can't, when people want to move a toilet to one side of the room to the other, and there's a whole bunch of joists, if you have 2x8s, ain't gonna happen. You don't want to be cutting that much of a 2x8. 2x10 is just at that level where you can do that. I still don't personally like it, because you really should be drilling in the center of that joist. You don't want to be too far to the top or the bottom of it. But ultimately, if you had a 2x12, which is probably not very common, that's when you can really get into a bigger hole size to do. And then it goes into, I have the notching, 1.25 inch depth at most for a 2x8, 1.5 inch for a 2x10. Now this is all, depending on your own load bearing situation. So, I'm not an engineer. I don't know what your house is really constructed of, but these are just kind of general rules for the most part. But here's what things can look like. This is like the reason that you want to take everything up sometimes, especially in these older homes. So this is a home I did in Swickley, and it's probably been 8 years now since I've done this one. But this was the most astonishing one that I had ever seen. When I tore that bathroom up, I couldn't even believe this bathroom was still sitting on the second floor. Look at how somebody ran and notched out some of this plumbing. This joist was completely compromised for this, what was that? I think it was the sink drain. Yeah, it was the vanity sink drain over here. Completely cut through. And then all these other notches were so unbelievable. Like, look at this one here at the toilet flange, completely cut through. The only thing that was holding this bathroom up was primarily this joist right here. But even this one, there was only like a 2x4 left. So what I had to do in this particular job, and I wish I was filming back then, or I wish I had somebody filming. This is like only a few pictures that I have of this. But what I ended up having to do is actually drop this entire the ceiling below and put all new joists in. There was no other way around it. This was just absolutely completely compromised. Could not even believe that this was even still sitting up. And this had a big mud bed on it too. This was an old home, and the mud bed was an inch and a half, 2 inches thick. So it was a heavy, heavy, heavy bathroom. And this is what some plumber did at one point. I guess. I mean, it had to be. I mean, there's no way they structured that way and then hacked through there. But holy cow, it can be scary. So always inspect that stuff. Anything like this, I mean, there's really no way of fixing this. This is just joist replacement for that matter. So you did a bathroom floor today, Botter? Yeah, I hear you, man. There's days, my knees, mine don't take long from me being on my knees before they hurt as well. So I hear you. So always check your joist spacing. Weedy, it's going to want 16 inches on center, 3/4 inch plywood. I really recommend just going 3/4 inch plywood no matter what you do. There's really no sense in going less than that. Even if your outside floor is 5/8, just still go with 3/4. You can always, especially with a curb shower, that 1/8 inch difference isn't going to make much of a difference. But even with the 5/8, on the outside floor, which is a lot of newer homes, that's what they use to cheap out a little bit. That's fine for ceramic. That's fine for porcelain. You can go ahead and do that. But under the shower floor area, I would definitely recommend going with that 3/4 inch plywood. Obviously, adding supports to where you need it. Drilling, now, I did say 5.5 inches. I don't think it really matters, but Weedy does recommend a 5-inch hole for their drains. And then if you're doing with a Schluter, do a 4.5 inch hole. The curbless system I think is what I was more thinking of, because that's 6.5 inches for the hole. But yeah, a 5-inch hole for the Weedy. Always glue your things, glue it, make sure things are level. So then I just have a couple other recommendations, just the pass load gun and the Makita saw down here. But yeah, anytime that you go into a bathroom, if you're going to possibly renovate, put a level on the floor. See how bad it is. If it's bad, I remember when I went into this bathroom, it was kind of tilted, and I could tell that there was like a little bit of bow in the middle. I had no idea that this was what it looked like, but underneath, obviously. But pay attention to anything that's really out of whack. If you're more than a 1 inch out of level in a 5-foot span, then there's probably something structural going on, and you might be uncovering. Now, I mean, this wasn't meant to scare you if you're trying to do your own bathroom remodel, but these are the things. This was a really big problem, and like I said, it was about 7 or 8 years ago that I did this job, so I'm sure I did it way cheaper than I should have ever done it for. So, all right, wall framing, because I want to get in our next part 3 series. We'll get into the actual shower faucet. So let's go over this framing. There's a lot of important details into this, especially with a curb shower that you want to pay attention to. So get right into it here.
Okay, so for the width of the shower, we're going to expand that out as well. The shower pan we had in here before was a 32 by 32. So we were able to extend that out to 42 because we're going to have framing meeting up with this wall or with this plumbing stack. So as far as rolls go for the toilet and how far away from the shower, you want to be a minimum of 15 inches from the center of the toilet to any fixture. So the shower being a fixture, you want to be 15 inches away from that curb. So measuring over here, we can expand the shower out quite a bit. Now I only got a 36-inch pan, and then we'll have a 4-inch curb that will be centered on that. So we'll be about 40 inches, well, give or take 40 inches overall. So that'll be our indication point there. So we got basically 18 inches away from the center of the toilet. Now that's pretty ideal for me. That's usually where I like it to be, is about 18 inches. 15 is still a little, you don't have a whole lot of elbow room there. So we're going to frame this out. The actual wall, we're going to make it, going to take 1.5 inches past our edge. So we'll be And the main reason for that, we'll get into the tiling detail later, but the reason that we're going to extend this wall out further is so that the curb has something to butt up against and it's not going to overhang the outside wall. So we'll make our total rough-in framing. We'll go 1.5 inches past the 40 mark of our shower. So we'll be 41.5 is what we're going to make our wall. And now I'm going to get some of this tile out of here first. Okay, so we'll measure, I like just to put on the stud where I'm going to end it all the way up into the ceiling and then nail that in. So it's 91 1/8. Okay, so we want to put a square on here, get a straight edge. So we want to be even with these and with this vent so that we can get as much room into the shower as possible. But I'm going to just give myself just a little bit of room, like a 1/4 inch, because I don't want that pipe interfering completely with, I don't want this protruding out. Plus we have these fittings, these brass fittings that bump out a little bit too. So give yourself a little, like a 1/2 inch outside of that plumbing so that you have room. And then we'll just simply measure, make a measurement off of our back wall here. So our actual measurement is 42, so we'll make a 41.5. All right, so then we need to basically make this 41.5 as well.
And I'm just using some shims here just to hold it down that 1/2 inch for the ceiling. I did not finish that ceiling area, so that's the only reason for the shimming of that top block. So it's really important to keep double checking your measurements and making sure that you have the correct distance between the floor. That's going to make it much easier to install the shower pan that you'll be installing. Now, as you can see here, I'm doing some notches and for around this vent pipe. Definitely less than ideal for that kind of situation, but I wanted to get the full expansion of the shower as much as I can. So just notching that out allows me to go over those vents. And then again, you always want to use your level and make sure that all your studs are all in the same plane because it makes it much easier for tile work.
Okay. All right, so measuring off of this, we're going to have our shower valve pretty tight to this 2x4. So we still need to be 16 inches on center, so this is too much here. So we'll just get something right in the middle. So we'll put this one flat ways so that we have something to anchor our shower doors into. Okay, so this is really weak because I just have that little notch out there. So I'm going to put some support on this back wall here. So I'm just going to put something here to just give it a little bit of support. Let's make sure that this doesn't stay where I need it to be. Okay.
So you want to pay attention to the corners of your shower. You always need blocking or you want to have support in the corner. So this is where I used a 2x4 flat ways in that corner.
And then our shower valve, you want to be about 45 inches. Anywhere between 42, 48 is a normal area for your hand or your shower valve. And then we're going to have a diverter valve that will go from my shower head to my handheld. So I would probably just set off the base of my floor, up on my subfloor, go 45 inches, and then we'll just put a 2x6 blocker. even with the back of the wall, because we're doing a delta shower valve. So you can just put a 2x4 to the back end of the studs. So 11.5. Okay, so just even with the back of the studs, that'll be appropriate for a delta valve. Really makes it easy.
Okay, I wanted to pause here real quick because this is a really important part of the framing installation here. To get the valve at the correct depth, you have to add the thickness of your backer board plus the tile plus the thin set. So if you have a standard 3/8 inch thick tile and you add your thin set, which is typically about 1/8 of an inch thick, plus your 1/2 inch backer board, you'll end up with an overall depth of 1 inch outside of your rough-in framing. So with that 1 inch, you want to be able to calculate from where the front of your valve needs to be, because most of your manufacturers are going to show you a depth from the finished wall to the back of the valve. So Delta specifically says 2 3/4 inches from the plaster guard, which is the front of your rough-in valve, plus or minus 1/4 inch. So we have the 1 inch with the backer board and tile, and then we set our blocking at 2 inches behind our front of our 2x4. And I just do that because that's simple, because you can just literally just put a 2x6 even with the back of your 2x4 wall, and you're set at the right depth. So you've got 2 inches plus the 1 inch, that's 3 inches, and that works with the placement that Delta wants you to have. So just wanted to reiterate that real quick.
So we just have this 2x4 even with the back. I'm using screws on here because I don't want to nail anything into my vent by accident. Okay, so that'll be for that, and then approximately another 10 inches. We'll put another block for our diverter, so 11.5, and then we'll have to do one for our shower head as well. So 3 blocks for that, along with one for the handheld port that comes out. Okay, so we'll say the center of this is 2 3/4. So the center of this next one will go 12. So that's good right where it is. Okay, now one more for a shower head. Now shower heads, the old standard used to be 78. That's a little bit too low for these days. So I'm gonna go 82 inches. That's usually where I like to put mine. So we'll get another block up here, 11 3/8. Just hold about an inch behind the rough framing. It doesn't have to be completely accurate, it just needs to be so that when I put that shower port in there, it'll be just about an inch behind the studs. Okay, then the shower port for your handheld, I like to kind of hold it up high so that your cable runs down. So I usually like to have my handheld, somewhere right around here, but I like to have the port about 60 inches off the floor. And then you're going to want to make this one about an inch, about 1.5 inches behind the wall. So yeah, we'll just get a 2x6 here as well. Okay, so this is just a 1/2 inch piece of scrap just a scrap piece of plywood, because then this would leave me 1.5 inches from the front of my studs. So that's what I want to leave for this port. So just nail this here. Okay, then we'll just mount our port to that. We've got our blocking for a diverter, blocking for our valve, and then blocking for our shower head. And then we have support here in the corner. Everything's within 16 inches on center. Everything is in line with one another. This is important because you want to be as flat as possible. The flatter the surface, the easier it is to tile. So double check all your other areas. And I would pretty much say anything within a 1/4 inch is good enough. If it becomes where you're bowing in further than that, you want to either plane it or add on a sistered stud to be able to bring that out. But just double check everywhere, make sure that your studs are all even. One other thing I'm going to do is put another 2x6 here so that I have support for my shower door.
So that wraps it up for the installation of that partition wall for the shower. Now this is also a great time to put any additional blocking in your wall if you want to put any grab bars. Most of the time you want to bring those grab bars about 36 inches off of the floor. Typically you can just use some plywood in between the studs, and that would be enough to actually anchor your grab bars into. And then the other thing I wanted you to notice is that I have new insulation all the way around the shower as well. So it's always a good idea to replace that. And if you want to have some soundproofing so that you don't hear the water running in the other room, you can put some insulation. But we have, I was putting rock wool in there. In my next video, we're going to go ahead and start getting into the waterproofing system. Okay, so yeah, sorry about that echoing, guys. I'm definitely gonna have to figure that out before I go live streaming again. I didn't have that problem with all my other live streams, so I'm not sure what the issue is, but thanks for your patience with that. Yeah, Modern, I just put that in there. I usually go build.com is where I usually get those that Delta shower system with the diverter and everything. I kind of really like that site. They really help out a lot. I have the links in this course as well for that, but hopefully some of those framing tips helped you out. But this is some of it was kind of slow going, but I really think it's really important to pay attention to all these different things about the depths, especially with that shower port. So 1.5 inches behind that usually works well for those PEX drop ear elbows, because that basically leaves me about 1 inch from the front of it. And then you can usually use, most of the time you're using a 2 inch or a 2.5 inch nipple to thread in, so you have 1 inch worth of backer board with tile. And then if you're 1 inch back from the front, from where your port is, then you typically have about 3/8 of an inch sticking outside of that tile layer, and that's what allows you to twist on your port onto that as well. So knowing those depths are pretty important, but know that brass fittings you can pretty much get all different sizes to fit, but most of them are going in within 1/2 inch increments. So again, just to reference a lot of this things that go on here, but paying attention to that toilet distance will allow you to have that. Make sure that you're framing out your wall. And as you can see, I was showing in the demonstration, you want to make, if you're doing a curb shower, try to bring that out about 1.5 inches, if not a little bit further, so that you can have enough room to make that curb butt up nicely. There's nothing worse than having the curb straight at the edge of the corner of the wall, and then you're kind of dealing with a curb top that's kind of sticking out from that, and it usually looks really terrible. So, I mean, at the very least, give yourself 1 inch so that you have room to make that look good. Now, granted, 15 inches is the code requirement for most places. 18 inches is where I like it. It gives you a lot, that's kind of more your ADA approved distances. But really, having more room there, especially if you're putting shower doors in, it's going to be best. I know that's really tough with some of these smaller bathrooms, so keep that in mind when you're doing it. But yeah, this is the most critical part that I'm trying to highlight here when you're framing this out, is give yourself some room so that this can look nice with an outside corner. And then obviously you're going to be mimicking that on the other side of the shower to make them both look right. Now, obviously I have almost 3 inches out further than this. That's because I went with the lean curb. So Weedy has 2 size curbs. They have like the 2 inch wide, and they have the 4 inch wide. I like the 2 inch just because you can get a 4 inch threshold like this. And I think, if you're going to do a curb, you might as well just go with a smaller size, because I just, having a whole bunch of real estate for that doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you're having a really large shower. So I like the 4 inch curbs. This was a 40 inch shower. A lot of tile shop, Home Depot and stuff, they'll sell
thresholds that are within under 48 inches. If not, you have to kind of go to a specialty store or a granite place to have them made. So, these are just highlights of the video, so I don't have to go through them since you just watched the video, but these are just here for reference to keep you, thinking about things as you're framing them if you forget about anything. But blocking for those shower doors is definitely going to be important. Adding a different supports to areas that you have the notch is really important. And we'll be definitely, when we're doing the shower enclosed system, or before we put the waterproofing up, we're going to be putting some metal plates over this, because you don't want to be screwing into any of your vent stacks or your plumbing for that matter. Here I just have the highlighted thing for Delta, because that's specifically what's in this course. But really, majority of your valves, if you stick a 2x4 into the back of your 2x4 wall, they usually typically work with most wall boards. There's a lot of flexibility. I mean, they say a quarter plus or minus a quarter inch. There's definitely a lot more room than that. But I think that's just keeping you from having an issue. The biggest problem that you can have in most cases is having it too far out. You can always figure out a way to somehow get that valve coming forward. But if it's already too far out to begin with, then it really makes it kind of difficult to be able to get that escutcheon plate on correctly. But if you stay within their plaster guard parameters, plus or minus quarter inch, you'll have no problem. Most of the time, you shouldn't have a problem doing that in a 2x4 wall. Blocking for your shower head, back in the day, it used to be 78 inches. Definitely higher these days. I definitely would recommend going in between 82 and 84 inches off the floor, because all these shower heads seem to get bigger. They might drop down further as well. So pay attention to the fixture you're actually buying. But 82 inches has seemed to be pretty well for most. But again, here, keep that port 3 inches away, at least 3 inches away from the wall, so you can actually thread the port on, and then setting your blocking 1.5 inches behind will make this PEX valve pretty much kind of about a quarter inch behind the actual framing here, and then a 2-inch nipple usually works. But sometimes if you have too much thin set, if you're using larger tile, you might actually have more thin set behind your tile. So then you might have to go to a 2.5-inch brass nipple to connect that with. And I tell you what, these Amazon valves, if any of you guys are using Amazon valves, boy, they have to be pretty spot on too, right flush with the surface of the tile. I'll be having a video on that as well, but pay attention to when you're ordering a shower system, how the port is installed and how far out that nipple can actually go, because you want to pay attention to that before you mount it in place. Blocking for your shower doors, again, always important. Blocking for your grab bars. You don't want to be, a lot of these grab bars, they sell them so that you can have these toggleable type of systems, but they usually require like a huge hole in the tile, and I don't think that's a really good idea. You spend all that money doing all this waterproofing. If you just put some blocking where you might have grab bars, then you can just use regular deck screws or the bigger screws that some of these products come with, and you're going to have a secured system. So blocking does not really cost a whole heck of a lot. It's just a matter of thinking ahead and doing that. So, and then, if you ever have a comment or a question about things, I'm always here available on my course, and YouTube as well. So I hope, I hope this demonstration's helped you out. Let me just drink I don't know why I'm so big here. But yeah, a lot of details with the moving the drain, a lot of gray areas that are associated with this. And, as I build out my platform, I'm hoping to cover a lot of these things, and I'm definitely going to be interjecting more into this course and having more scenarios available to you. So, so happy St. Patrick's Day. And, we'll probably pick this up on Sunday for part 3. So if you think about it as you're thinking over the weekend and stuff, if you have any questions, you could always email me too. I could put my email down here as well. Bathroom remodeling teacher at gmail.com. And then links are in the description as well. So thanks again. Hope this was informative, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.